It was my pleasure several weeks ago to participate in a luncheon meeting with the Tampa Bay Paralegal Association about the issue of legalized marijuana. My name is Ted Corless. I'm the editor of NewsMunchies.com and a lawyer with the Corless Barfield Trial Group. One of the things we did at the presentation was to point out that while we did answer a few questions, I invited the members of the association to send me emails with specific questions that they had. We then took those questions and digested them into what will be this video. It's my hope that I can direct this information to answer the important questions that I received from several individuals. The interesting thing was, and a little bit of a smile, I received most questions from people whose very simple question was, where can I go to get legal marijuana in the state of Florida? Not to say that the individuals at the luncheon all supported our positions. Of course they didn't. And we spoke with a few people that were very passionate against it. But addressing those individuals who do want to know how to gain access to it, this is the process. You must identify a doctor in the state of Florida who has applied for and received the proper certification to be able to issue prescriptions for medical marijuana. There are a couple of websites, Weed Maps, Leafly, and some others that you can just find by typing medical marijuana Florida that will locate the doctors who in fact have that certification. The hope would be that you have a doctor now who has that certification. The reason for that is under the current structure, if you go to a physician to get medical marijuana that you've never seen before, they cannot write you a script for it unless they wait 90 days after the first day you walk into their office. And there is a requirement that you walk into the office to obtain the doctor's counsel because the current law specifically restricts against your ability to have that interface over the phone or by Skype or any other way. You have to see the doctor. And so one of the other questions we received was, what kind of doctor would offer this kind of care? Something meaning that you can gain access to medical marijuana. Most of the physicians that I've spoken with in the state of Florida that are doing this either are involved in pain management or are internists, just a general practitioner physician who may provide this to you. Now, in terms of what specific illnesses, that also was a question we received from 3 people. There is a very short list of individual diseases or conditions that would permit you to gain access to medical cannabis. Most of them are for very serious, well, frankly, all of the list contains very serious diseases, such as ALS, multiple sclerosis, post-traumatic stress disorder, and of course, cancer. But a lot of times, the people that have these individual diseases, when they find out about them, cancer for example, many of those people find themselves back in the hospital within a few days for either resection of the cancer or for treatment. And during that time period or immediately thereafter, consuming cannabis would be extremely helpful to the side effects. But the problem is, under the current law, if you just found out you have cancer, you can't touch it for another 90 days. And that's something that we hope the legislature is going to resolve in favor of the patients. One of the other questions that I received, and it ended up being what I think was probably the most touching thing for me in terms of giving me context of this, is someone asked me about whether or not you could use cannabis to get off of dangerous opioids. And when I'm talking about opioids, I'm talking about Vicodin, Percocet, any of those diseases or any of those drugs that contain, hydromorphone, because really hydromorphone is the drug that you are taking if you are either taking a Vicodin, but it also happens to be the drug you're taking if you happen to be shooting up heroin. There is an enormous amount of conversation going on right now in the medical community, especially with pain management clinics, about whether or not cannabis can provide an opportunity for people to either get off of their addiction to dangerous opioids, or if they can use cannabis to at least limit their requirement that they have to take so much for the pain that they have. And I hope that conversation continues, because I happen to believe the data that suggests that there is an inverse relationship between cannabis and heroin. The more cannabis is available in the urban centers throughout the United States that have legalized marijuana, they are seeing dramatic drops in opioid overdoses. And I want to give an especially strong reach out to the individual that came up to me after the luncheon and shared with me that a family member had recently passed from an opioid overdose. In fact, it was only 2 days prior to the luncheon speech that I gave. And that person really touched me. And I shared that information with a lot of people that I'm working with in several states. And it really did make a difference that we know that. And I'm going to be using that particular topic in many programs that we're working on in the future that I will be sharing with you as well. Cannabis is a complicated issue, not necessarily in the science of cannabis or understanding how cannabis can change people's lives in a positive way, especially given the enormous stigma associated with it. But what's more complicated about it is that many of the individuals that continue to fight against well-regulated cannabis are the individuals that continue to propagate misinformation and lies about it. We write as much about it as we can, and we share the resources that we find on our website, newsmunchies.com. And we're hopeful that continuing to share accurate information will get rid of the stigma and allow individuals to pursue it as something that can positively change their ability to control pain or other diseases. I'm going to continue talking about cannabis. I'm going to continue writing about it, and I'm here to answer the questions that you have. I'm so very thankful to the members of the Tampa Bay Paralegal Association for inviting me in, and I look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. Be well.